So having learnt all this about myself and others, it becomes, what's the point of all of this? I really want to help other people with their journey, but I think I also want to help people with, help the world with the transition that we're going through and the challenges in the environment and social. And so this becomes not just about helping individuals, but creating leaders, creating people who are grown up enough to be able to make a difference in the world around them. And I know that's something that you're interested in as well.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That really floats my boat and gets me very excited. You know, I was thinking very, very sweetly about what you had said on the first podcast about how when people, you know, you'd go to a space and they maybe created something and they were offering something and it didn't involve oneness, you get very sad, right? And I really got that. But then the flip side is when you go somewhere and they're offering something and it's really on point and it gets you really happy. So wisdom leadership is one of those conversations and spaces really for me.
Yeah.
Really gets me happy. Yeah.
Why do you call it wisdom leadership? What's your concept?
Well, so there's lots of different reasons for that. I think one of the points is that it's indicative of really talking about and harnessing your higher self. And when you're connecting in with your higher self, that's where you're accessing your deepest wisdom. Right. And so, and when we're connected with our highest wisdom, you know, our infinite soul is running the show, and, you know, it's no longer our conditioning, our mechanism, our defenses, or, you know, any of that. And it's just our grander soul. We're giving the power to that part of ourselves, and that part of ourselves that's infinite knows exactly what they want to create, knows exactly how they're tapped in, and all of the answers are within us, right? And so the thing then is, you know, how do we get ourselves out of the way so that we can not just be in touch with moments of that, but that we can truly embody that? And what kind of amazing, you know, qualities in our leadership that then unfolds within us, you know, is just incredible. You know, we take so many more different kind of inspired actions that we wouldn't even think about until we're tapped into that space. Like we just have no clue until we're tapped into that part of us. And then what happens when you do that? And then you bring that into the space where it makes others feel possible that they can create that. It's like now this whole unbelievable magnetizing effect of like this collective ripple that happens when you've created yours and then you make it available in others, and you just kind of set off this real amazing wildfire experience inside of each other that's now making it possible to other people to realize that they can too. And then that's when you start seeing what I believe are going to be monumental solutions, monumental answers to these predicaments and these challenges that we are facing right now, that the lower part of ourselves, our ego self, all of that rubbish, isn't going to be able to be tapped in to answer, because the answers are going to occur at the much higher level where people can get their true perspective and really take up space inside of who they are and recognize that they do have the answers inside of themselves. They just have to learn how to embody it and be able to walk it and be able to do it with other people and know that it's possible to.
One of the elements that I think is really important is the compassion that comes from oneness, from the connection with everything. It means that you're helping other people, you're doing something for others or the world or whoever you're doing it for. not just because you care about them, but because it's like part of you, which makes for it a much more there's a commitment to really helping, to really being of service, because how can I not help? It's like, if I'm hungry, I eat. If somebody else is hungry, well, that they need to eat too. It's like it's a natural process, and I think it allows people to be more sharing. And a lot of the work that is needed in the world today, I believe, is to do with sharing, is to do with creating community groups, sharing, doing things together. If it's about relationships, then it's about how can we both be happy together. If it's about the issues in the business world, in capitalism, it's about cooperating instead of competing.
Yeah.
If it's about isolation in the cities, it's about networking, coming together, helping other people, being part of that community. And whatever it is, it requires this natural sharing, not the self-sacrificing, I will do it for you because it's important to do it for you, but I'm not enjoying it myself. But the actual, we're in this together, and we do it with joy. And the other thing that it needs, apart from this compassion and this connection and this service, it also requires passion, not just compassion, but also passion. It requires you to get in there and do something and put a lot of energy in.
Absolutely.
It's
Agree
only,
both.
yeah, yeah.
And if you notice as well that compassion has passion in it.
Yes.
Right. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it's actually designed that way for a specific reason.
Yes.
So I completely agree that I think you need both parts of that inside of the space to be the turnkey. Absolutely.
And so to have both of them requires a certain particular level of awakening. When I see people who haven't really awakened to their spiritual self, they can be really passionate and driven, but not compassionate. And when I see people who've reached a certain slightly higher level and they kind of understand other people and they have a certain inner peace and whatever, really compassionate, but their passion is lacking. They're a little bit mild. And so they can't actually step up into that leadership role that's required. And it's only in this unity that we find the two joined together, that they become compassion and passion in action in this joyous way that makes, and wise. Of course, that's the inspiration is the other corner. There's always three.
And I think the thing is that inside of offering that and inside of sharing that, those are the things that become part of the experience and part of the unfolding that's being offered here inside of it. So, if you were to ask me kind of what makes it unique, that's part of the development that comes inside of what they would have an experience of inside of, let's say, the course that we're offering, because inside of that, they would tap into that part of their being. And so it becomes...
You're offering a course at the moment, I take it.
Yeah.
On this wisdom.
That I'm very excited about, wisdom leadership. That's right. And the idea is that it's also about, it's about people mastering the certain elements of their being that are part of wisdom leadership, and compassion is one of them.
Right. And so do you think those that I got the right 3 points? Is it compassion, passion, and inspiration? Does that cover it?
Those are all in there, and I think they're all important. Do I think there are other things in it? Yes, and part of that is because the other thing about it is we're not wanting to have people be the wise leader I want them to be. I want them to embody the wise leader they want to be.
Yes.
And so inside of that evokes a whole sense of exploration and inquiry into what my wise leader wants to express, be, how it moves, how it feels, what's my inner GPS around my wise leader, what's my superpowers, right? And so it's about giving people their full self-expression to discover, to come home to themselves inside of their own wise leader. I'm not asking them to be my model of wise leader. I'm asking them to find their own. And inside of that, be inspired to create something that is really meaningful for them inside of where they are in their life, in their community, in their city, for the world. Because that's the type of wise leaders we need in the world right now, to be really responding and stepping up.
Yeah, in whatever way that
in whatever way, that's right. And in whatever way that is for you. And that's what's so important. That's what I'm saying. In whatever way that is for you.
And when we talk about superpowers, I think sometimes these superpowers, these gifts, sometimes they're very ordinary things that you don't even realize are superpowers.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's a really good cook and really knows what people like, is really able to make things that people really like. And it's like, it's a really special power of hers. But how does it show up? She cooks for the family. But she's really expressing her gift in it.
But you see, the other thing is, though, that some superpowers like that also occur to people as ordinary, and they get dismissed inside of it. But the thing is that, like, creating something that's as powerful as nourishment for someone or connection for someone is huge.
Yes.
And it can be expressed in all sorts of ways, whether it's through food or whether it's through music or whatever, the vessel or I think the thing is that I would say that people perceive that their superpowers are ordinary when they really are extraordinary when they get connected to it, whatever it is. But it doesn't have to be extraordinary. That makes it extraordinary. That's the whole point. And they can be very simple and yet profound.
I think it's very common to experience them as ordinary because for you they come so naturally. For you they are very ordinary. For other people they might not be.
I think sometimes also people have a sense that they don't also want to kind of blow their trumpet about it, if that makes sense. They rather just kind of keep it, hidden. And I think that my whole thing is, I think some of the most powerful things are kept simple. I think some of the most extraordinary things are ordinary, and it's not about boxing that in any particular way. But what I don't want to see is people hiding their gifts in whatever way that is.
Yeah.
Let's let's remove the idea of staying hidden, staying small, feeling as if like, I need to keep this some kind of secret, or it's no big deal, or remove the shame from it. All of that conversation, that's the point. Is like, it doesn't have to be any version of big that you perceive it to be, whatever it is for you, but like do it powerfully and do it unabashedly you, and be proud of that is the point.
Yes. I've had an experience of being called arrogant.
Oh, from what?
Just kind of from being cool and collected and not involved in things. Just kind of sitting back. And it actually comes from very much the opposite of pride. It comes from a sense of, I don't want to interfere. I allow people to do their thing. Maybe I don't really fit, but I can kind of just sit here and let things go on. So it's more about being aloof than about being proud. The interesting thing, the reason I mention it, is that I was perceived as arrogant, and at some point I kind of got fed up with this, and there wasn't anything I could do that would stop them from perceiving me as arrogant, so I decided to behave in a more arrogant way. And they stopped perceiving me as arrogant. It was like, hang on, that's a bit weird. But I think the lesson is that genuinely holding yourself in a proud, honoring yourself kind of way is actually easy for people to respect. It's much less jarring to them than the kind of pretending that you're less and not trying not to shine. When you try not to shine, it's very, very visible and kind of disturbing. When you really shine, then it's like, yeah, okay, this is a weird, interesting person like the rest of us. This is cool.
I think people do pick up on a more kind of confusing manner in which it comes across sometimes, yes. And I think that then you become more open to misinterpretation.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, whatever way it is that you're wanting to do it, that's your business and that's up to you. But the other thing is, certain people are on a particular journey, and some people haven't found themselves with that yet.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, like, it'll be how it is. If people have the conscious awareness that they know that, this is actually kind of how I want to put myself out there, then great. But some people don't and aren't there yet, right? So, you can be called out on something that you might not be aware of. In your case, you are aware, so it's different, but certain people sometimes aren't,
you're not aware of it, or at some point you become aware of it. And for me, maybe it was pride and arrogance and self-esteem. But for somebody else, it might be something completely different. But there's the same thing of not fully expressing who you are. So it's not about being proud in the sense of standing strong and proud. It's about being authentic. And that's kind of, that self-esteem, that's got a certain pride in it. It's just like, it doesn't feel like pride. It feels like just being me and not being kind of worried about all of that stuff anymore.
Yep, I get that. Yeah, I get that. But you know what? Also being yourself, or the perception of being yourself, that can also really unnerve people, because it evokes, and it kind of, it's like an earthquake almost, like it's like an outward tremor. Not that you're intending to be. Anyone who shows up to be just authentic, it's quite interesting to watch, actually. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen, it's like almost as if there's like a storm that has blown in sometimes. And again, not because you're trying to evoke the storm, or you're trying exactly or cause the wave or the ripple or whatever, but it's just because a person with an authentic vibration just completely alters the room. And so that then has knock-on effects with the people who aren't being authentic for whatever reason, right? Or who haven't owned certain parts of themselves, and whatever this person is sharing or doing is bringing that in a way that, for some people is very confronting, or they're not ready yet to awaken to that truth, or they're resistant to that, right? So I think I'm really very present to the fact that authenticity really shakes people to the core, whether they're aware of it or not, like in conscious awareness of it or not. It brings up a lot for people, but it doesn't stop and it should definitely never stop the person who comes into the space, who's speaking and sharing their authenticity, to ever stop doing it because of the effect that it can have on people. But I have really seen the monumental and powerful effect, but yet it's really a space of disruption that authenticity creates.
I've seen the opposite a lot. I've seen that a lot of people who've found their authenticity in a way that is very, very gentle and undisruptive. I have this, you know, I talked about laziness. So I had a friend who saw himself as lazy and really was trying to put more effort in and trying to do things and in conversation would kind of try and say the right thing to fill in the space. And we were going to a party together, and before we went in, I said to him, you know what? You're not nearly as lazy as I am.
Oh my goodness, what did he say to that?
It was like, he looked at me shocked. He was like, what? Because, you know, I show up as a lot more energetic than him. But my point was that I don't make an effort to do that. It's just because it comes out naturally. He was making so much effort to try and be something he's not. So he went into this party having just had that conversation, and instead of trying to fill the space and trying to do something, he just sat there and he didn't say anything. And I sat next to him and we had a conversation with someone, you know, I say we had a conversation, I had a conversation with someone else, and he didn't say anything. And when we left, she said to him, it's so lovely being in your presence. You have such a lovely, lovely energy. And and so he discovered that actually, if he didn't bother to try and fill the space, but he just allowed himself to be who he was, it actually created less ripples and less traumas and made him fit in quite
That's a
well.
lovely example. Yeah, that's a lovely example. I like that one a lot. I really like that one a lot. It's great.